What if the tarot was never a tool to tell you what will happen, but a mirror to show you what's already awakening? We've been told that tarot is just a parlor trick, a game for mystics, fortune tellers, or curious minds, a way to glimpse the unknown by flipping a card. But what if that was the greatest misdirection of all? What if the tarot deck wasn't a tool of divination, but a spiritual map? A coded sequence of symbols, each one whispering the story of your soul's evolution. The Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess. These are not characters, they are archetypes, psychological blueprints, reflections of your inner journey, from forgetfulness to awakening. Every card in the Major Arcana aligns with ancient systems, Kabbalistic paths on the Tree of Life, planetary forces of astrology, Hermetic teachings of polarity and transformation, and sacred geometry hidden in plain sight. This isn't superstition, this is initiation, because when you stop asking, what will happen to me, and start asking, what pattern am I inside of? The cards begin to speak differently, not of future events, but of present awakenings. What if every card wasn't outside of you, but encoded in your soul, waiting to be reawakened? To uncover the true purpose of the tarot, we must go back, not to the fortune tellers of recent centuries, but to the esoteric schools that encoded the wisdom into each card, centuries before anyone called it a game. Part 1. The Tarot's Hidden Origins. Before it was ever used to predict the future, tarot was known by another name, the Book of Life. Not a literal book, but a visual language, a deck of 78 archetypal keys designed to unlock the stages of the human soul's evolution. Most people trace the tarot to Renaissance Europe, where it emerged as a mysterious game called Triomphe. But its true roots go much deeper. Some scholars point toward ancient Egypt, to the myth of Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. He was said to possess a sacred book containing the secrets of the universe, a book that could grant ultimate knowledge to anyone who read it. That book, many believe, was not a scroll, but a symbolic system, the tarot. Later, during the flowering of Hermetic philosophy in Alexandria, esoteric thinkers began merging Egyptian, Greek, and Hebrew wisdom, weaving together astrology, alchemy, and Kabbalah. It's here that tarot became more than cards. It became a spiritual mirror. Each of the 22 cards in the Major Arcana aligns with the 22 paths of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. They trace the descent of divine consciousness into form, and the soul's journey back up, into union with Source. The Minor Arcana, with its 4 suits, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, represent the 4 elements, the 4 directions, the 4 worlds of creation in Kabbalah, and even the 4 suits of reality: action, emotion, intellect, and matter. Every number, every symbol, every archetype is a glyph of hidden truth. The magician isn't just about manifesting. He represents the soul awakening to its power, realizing that heaven and earth are bridged through focused will. The High Priestess is not just mystery. She is the guardian of sacred knowledge, the veil between seen and unseen realms. And the Fool. He is you. He is the beginning, the unawakened soul stepping into the unknown, starting the journey through the spiral of transformation. None of this was random. Mystics, alchemists, and initiates encoded these patterns, not to entertain, but to preserve ancient wisdom through imagery that would survive censorship, exile, and religious suppression. They knew something profound. Symbols speak when words cannot. And when you study the tarot not as fortune-telling, but as a symbolic language of the soul. Everything changes. You stop pulling cards to learn what will happen to you, and start seeing the cards as mirrors of what's already awakening inside you. But to truly understand the tarot, you have to walk its path, card by card, because hidden within the deck is a sacred journey, one that begins with a fool and ends with the world. Part 2. The Major Arcana, the Soul's Journey. What if your entire life was encoded in 22 cards? Not to predict your future, but to reflect the path your soul is walking. The Major Arcana isn't just the heart of the tarot, it's a sacred map, a mirror of the inner world, a symbolic blueprint of the soul's evolution. From innocence to mastery to wholeness, it begins with the Fool, the 0 point, the unformed self, a soul leaping into incarnation with nothing but trust and a spark of divine curiosity. He carries no baggage because he has no past, only potential. From there, the journey unfolds. He meets the magician who teaches him to focus his will, the high priestess who whispers of the inner world, the empress, mother of form, the emperor, bringer of structure, and so on, each card a teacher, each archetype a threshold. This is more than myth. It mirrors the hero's journey, a pattern found in every great story: departure, challenge, death, rebirth, return. But unlike external adventures, the Major Arcana tracks your inner spiral of awakening. The lovers aren't just about romance. They ask you to choose between truth and comfort, between soul calling and ego desire. The Chariot? That's not victory over others. It's mastery of opposing forces within you. Emotion and logic, fear and faith, light and shadow. When the journey reaches the tower, the illusion collapses. The false self burns. It's not destruction, it's liberation. Then comes the star, the return of hope, clarity, grace after collapse, and finally, after death, judgment and deep cosmic integration. You arrive at the world, not a destination, but a revelation. You were always whole. You simply forgot. This progression is no accident. It follows the steps of inner alchemy, the spiral of psychological individuation, the soul's remembrance of its true nature. Carl Jung saw the tarot as a living language of the psyche, each card an aspect of the self, repressed, awakened, transformed. And the mystics knew, if you work with these images, you don't just reflect your journey, you accelerate it. Because symbols don't just speak to the mind, they vibrate through the subconscious. They bypass language, culture, belief, and go straight to the soul. The Major Arcana is your map, but until you activate the symbols within, it remains just ink and paper. But how do these archetypes actually affect you? What gives a card its power? The answer isn't in the paper or the ink. It's in something far more subtle and far more powerful: resonance. Part 3. Symbols, subconscious and activation. Why do some images stir something deep within you, even if you don't understand why? Because symbols don't speak to your mind, they speak to your soul. Carl Jung called them archetypes, primordial blueprints embedded in the collective unconscious. Not just psychological metaphors, but universal energies encoded into the fabric of every human life. The tarot is not just a tool, it's a deck of activation codes. Each card, a portal, a mirror, a frequency. When you look at the Hermit, You're not just seeing an old man holding a lantern. You're being invited into a phase of inner withdrawal, of solitude, wisdom, soul-searching, when death appears. It's not a threat, it's an initiation. It triggers something deep inside that knows something must die, for something greater to be born. This is the power of symbolic language. It bypasses logic. It slips beneath the layers of the conscious mind and unlocks what has been dormant. Colors carry frequency. Numbers hold vibration. Geometry aligns the image with cosmic order. A triangle in a card doesn't just look sacred. It is sacred. It reflects the trinity of body, mind, and spirit, or fire, water, and air. It harmonizes the image with ancient principles of manifestation, and when you gaze at these cards with awareness, your subconscious begins to shift. This is why mystics, artists, and initiates across time encoded truth into symbol. Because while words can be debated, denied, or distorted, symbols slip past the mind and speak to something ancient in your soul. Modern science is starting to catch up. Neuroscience shows how visual stimuli can change brainwave patterns, emotional states, and memory pathways. Symbols are not decoration. They're keys designed to open something buried inside you, and tarot is a master key. But here's the secret. It's not the card that has the power. It's your attention. The card reflects you, your energy, your question, your moment. You're not reading the cards. The cards are reading you. This is why a single card can feel different every time you see it. Because you have changed. Because you are the ritual. Because the symbol is alive through you. This is also why tarot has endured for centuries, not as superstition, but as an initiatory mirror for those ready to see beyond the veil. But if tarot is truly this powerful, a psychological tool, a spiritual technology, a mirror of the soul, then why has it been feared, banned, and labeled as evil? Because when people understand symbols, they no longer obey dogma, they no longer need permission, and that has always terrified the systems that seek to control the soul. Part 4. Suppression, Fear, and the Demonization of Tarot. If the tarot is just a deck of pictures, why did the church fear it? Why were entire decks burned? Why were readers condemned as witches, heretics, or sorcerers? Because the tarot, like astrology, alchemy, and Kabbalah, was never just symbolic. It was dangerous to those who built empires on control. For centuries, the tarot circulated quietly, hidden among mystics, artists, and initiates. But as institutional religion tightened its grip on the masses, anything that offered direct access to spiritual power became a threat. You see, tarot doesn't require a priest. It doesn't ask you to obey a doctrine. It doesn't need you to kneel, confess, or tithe. It simply asks, are you ready to see the truth? And that kind of access, raw, personal, unfiltered spiritual insight, terrified those in power. So the suppression began. In the Middle Ages, tarot was banned under accusations of heresy and devilry. Decks were burned, readers were imprisoned, and those who dared to speak in symbols were silenced. The Catholic Inquisition targeted anyone using divinatory tools, not because they were false, but because they worked. And like astrology, the tarot was painted as evil, a gateway to demonic influence. But this was projection, because the real evil in the eyes of empire was a human being who could look within and trust their own knowing. So tarot was hidden in plain sight. Artists disguised it as a card game. Mystics encoded it into artwork. Hermetic orders wove its wisdom into layered systems of initiation just out of reach of the common eye. And yet, it never disappeared. Because truth has a frequency, and frequency doesn't die. It waits. And now, as collective consciousness rises, as the veil thins, as more and more people seek sovereignty over salvation, the cards are returning. Not as superstition, not as party tricks or fortune-telling tropes, but as the sacred mirror they were always meant to be. You see, the tarot was never dangerous to the soul. It was dangerous to the system that sought to control it, because when you decode the symbols, you stop asking for permission and start remembering that initiation was always your birthright. You stop seeking answers outside yourself. You remember that initiation doesn't come from a pulpit, it comes from within. And that is why tarot was feared, not because it predicts the future, but because it awakens you in the present. So now that the cards are back in your hands, the real question is, are you ready to read yourself? Not to see what will happen, but to remember who you've always been. Part 5. Using tarot as a tool for awakening. The greatest misunderstanding about tarot is thinking it tells the future. It doesn't. It reflects you. Right now, right here. Exactly as you are, beneath the noise, the fear, the programming. The tarot isn't a crystal ball. It's a mirror, one that doesn't show your face, but your frequency. Each card isn't a prophecy. It's a doorway, an invitation, a spark that reactivates something ancient in your soul. Because the symbols aren't just images, they're archetypes, blueprints of consciousness embedded in your spiritual DNA. The Fool isn't just the start of the journey, it's the part of you that dares to leap without proof. The High Priestess isn't just a card. It's the intuitive voice inside you that's always been whispering. Death isn't about endings. It's the call to surrender, shed, and rise. So how do you work with tarot, not as a fortune teller, but as a soul awakener? Start simple. Pull one card a day, not to ask what's coming, but to ask, what do I need to see within myself today? Sit with the card. Breathe with it. Feel its energy, its colors, its symbols. Let your intuition speak before you read a single line of text. Meditate with archetypes. Imagine yourself as the magician. What are you ready to manifest? As the hermit, what truth hides in your solitude? As the star, what hope still lives inside you? Create a soul spread. Not past, present, future, but shadow self-light. What's buried? What's rising? What's ready to be born? You don't need to memorize every meaning. You don't need to recite guidebooks. You only need to listen. Because the tarot doesn't speak to the mind, it speaks to the soul. And the more you trust your inner guidance, the more the cards begin to move, not just in your hands, but in your life. You'll start to see the archetypes, not just on paper, but in your conversations, your dreams, your decisions. Because you're not learning the tarot, you're remembering it. You've walked this symbolic path before. You've held these keys in other lives. This is not new, it's just waking back up. Final image. A seeker sits quietly. A single candle flickers. Their hand rests on the deck, not to demand answers, but to reconnect. Not with fate, but with soul. And as they pull a single card, they don't ask, what will happen? They ask, what part of me is ready to be revealed? The future isn't written in the cards, it's written in you, and the tarot, It's just the flashlight helping you find the words. Final CTA. If the tarot is the mirror of your soul, then what forgotten truth will stare back when you're ready to see it? These aren't just cards. They are symbols. They are codes. They are echoes of the soul you've always been, waiting to be remembered. So if you're ready to stop seeking answers outside yourself and start unlocking the hidden ones within, subscribe now, because the real magic isn't in the deck, it's in you. Next episode teaser: how to unlock the power of your third eye. What if your inner vision was once wide open and you just forgot how to see? In the next episode, we'll explore the mystical gateway to higher perception and why ancient initiates believed your third eye was the key to divine truth. Don't miss it.